Hello and welcome to the fourth of the Developer Diaries on mining and smithing. This time we're going to be talking about what it's like to mine. It's worth going over what happened last time, and we were asking about whether or not smithing should cost.
Yeah.
Whether or not it should be cash neutral or not.
Yeah, it was pretty overwhelming response of, yeah, we're quite happy for smithing to cost money to level up, please, and have a big benefit at the end. So it was pretty overwhelming. I have, if anything, a slight counter proposal, which is it okay if there's a cheap or free method which is very slow?
Yes.
That's something we've done in a lot of skills, I think, where by default it costs money, and to get a reasonable XP rate it costs money. But so maybe there could be a cheap or free method that's very slow.
Yeah, so that won't be the main or core
but that
identity
wouldn't be,
of mining.
I think so,
yeah.
So let us know what you think of that as well.
One of the things we wanted to also do, which we realised we haven't done up to this point, is actually thank everybody for the feedback.
Thank you so much. Yeah, there's been so much discussion on Reddit, on
sheer
our forums,
wordage
on YouTube.
There's been quite a lot.
Yeah,
so,
and loads of people taking it so seriously and really giving us their thoughts.
Yeah, and
it's been so useful.
Understanding what we're trying to do with these videos as well, but the sheer number of opinions, and it's made the whole process a lot more rigorous and a lot easier for us to do as well. So thank you so much. But now we're on to kind of core mining and what it'll be like to mine. Throughout this, we'll be looking for your feedback basically, because this is a lot of kind of
I'm going to describe how it works.
Positing certain ideas about how we're going to do it. So it's worth kind of emphasising what we're going to do with the core ores.
So we're going to be adding in ores at every tier. So tier is 10, 20, 30, 40. So one per tier. RuneScape will be at 50. And then 60, 70, 80, 90. And we'd like to try to get the emphasis on those ores rather than alternate skilling methods. We want to make sure those ores are a viable way of leveling the skill. Yeah. You'll get good XP, you'll get ore which is valuable because of the changes to the smithing skill, that ore will be valuable.
Yeah, so at the moment with mining, you are not necessarily training through core training methods. You're going elsewhere, you're doing living rock caverns, various
That's
things.
not to say we necessarily want to nerf those methods. They might still be viable alternatives. You say, well, I don't care about ore, I care about XP.
But the focus for us is on getting people to DIY.
Yeah,
do
exactly.
Themselves. Yeah. Okay, it's worth mentioning, right, so talking about how we mine and where we find the resources.
Yeah.
So first of all, at the moment, the way mining works is that I have to go out of my way to find a very rare RuneScape rock.
Which in practice people just don't do.
Exactly, and it might be exhausted, and when
it's just not worth the time.
It's exhausted.
Veins are not going to be difficult to find. If you want to go and mine, you're 80, somewhere between 80 and 89 mining, you go, well, I'm going to go mine in Victim. So you just go to where the Invictum is and you mine it. You don't have to look around the world or go, well, there isn't any, so I'll just do something else.
I think there's an important distinction to be made that this doesn't mean that they're going to be everywhere. They're not going to be in Varrock mining spots or Lumbridge mining spots necessarily. It's just a case of...
They might be in high level or restricted areas.
It might just be in living rock caverns or...
I mean, it's important that I can be a mining pure. If I've decided I only want to level mining, I mean, it's just an example, but if I've decided I only want to level mining, then I can level mining. I don't have to have lots of other skills to be able to get into the level 90 mining area. So that will be important to us, but that doesn't mean that we have to just plonk them down everywhere on the surface world. So one example, we're thinking of making use of living rock caverns perhaps as the level 90 mining area. Perhaps we repurpose it because it's such an iconic mining spot. If we make that the sole source of level 90 ore, so then everyone's there in the living rock caverns, same as before.
Yeah, but that could be where we put them.
That's just one plan. Yeah.
So ultimately, we want people to be mining themselves. So mining the rocks, that means that we shouldn't put them behind kind of gates of being scarce or hard to find, or that when you get there, they're depleted. Yeah. So that's the first thing we're positing. Yeah. Another thing is that we won't necessarily introduce competition. We don't.
We don't. Yeah, we want mining to feel cooperative. If I'm there mining, I'm glad if there are other people. We don't necessarily need to get a bonus for there being other people there, but I'm glad because there's someone else there doing it with me, and that's fun, and I can talk to them.
In the same way that when I'm
fishing, opposed to please go away to a different world because you're stealing my stuff. We don't want that. So like fishing. Yeah.
We're also talking about kind of stackable ore.
Yes, yes. At the moment, there's a really difficult decision because do I want to keep the ore? Is it worth it? Yeah. And that contributes to the problem of skills not being profitable compared to combat, because the individual value of each piece of ore is low enough that it's not really worth your time to keep it a lot of the time.
So we're just seeing people abandoning pile after pile of ore.
Yeah. That really contributes to mining not being seen as the source of ore. So we'd like to. Perhaps the ore is stackable. Perhaps there are deposit points. Perhaps there are mine carts. Whatever the system is, that we want people to be able to keep their ore if they mine
like bamboo wrapping in the art. Just a method whereby people are actually keeping what they mine. Yeah. So that is going to be a big part.
And that'll really help mining to be more profitable. Yeah. If we can make that painless.
So again, we want to hear what you think about that, because that's certainly what we're pushing for at the moment. The background of all of this is we want people to be mining themselves, not purchasing from the Grand Exchange.
It's not that people can't mine from the Grand Exchange, but that we definitely want it to be a viable method. At the moment, it's just not practical to go and mine yourself. I men are forced to. But other than that, it's just not an effective way to play the game, and we want to make it be an effective choice.
Yes.
It's not the only choice, but we want it to be a viable
value,
choice.
whether or not that's XP or resource. One of the things we've also been talking about is trying to introduce some surprise or some kind of reward for while doing mining. So we've been talking about things similar to bird's nests with woodcutting, golden eggs, I guess, from fishing, chronicles from divination.
Because mining is a fairly passive skill by nature, and we don't intend to change that. So it will still be a fairly passive skill, but the danger there, of course, is that it's a completely AFK skill where there's no reason to pay attention at all. We'll be trying to find a balance of how frequently you need to click and what reward you get for paying attention. And so we have these sort of slight bonuses.
Yes.
For that, if you're actively engaged, if you're paying attention, then you get a little bit more.
I think that works. I think that suits RuneScape. The idea of not punishing people for not paying attention, but rewarding those who do. I think is a really good way of doing it. You've got something you want to mention on animations?
Yes. I mean, this is
kind of a
personal priority for me. Yeah. At the moment, when you swing your mining pick, it doesn't really have anything to do with what's going on. There's a sort of, it kind of goes ting ting. Ting, and it has absolutely
completely separate
nothing to do with the ore, nothing to do with the XP. I'd really like to standardise that so it feels more satisfying. So you go bonk and you get your XP,
or a headbutt
and you get your XP. Oh yeah, or a headbutt. Yeah. So trying to standardise the way the animation works rather than it being having effectively disconnected, I think it will make mining feel more satisfying in a subtle way.
Yes.
I mean, more 20 hours in, you'll not be paying attention anymore, but just a little bit.
The next thing we want to talk about is probably had been the most contentious when we previously kind of put this forward in the live streams for the old design. Was the idea that when I mine an ore, when I'm hitting a rock, I'm making progress. On that rock up to the point where I finally unlock or complete it.
And what people said was, why are you turning mining into combat? We don't want this.
Yes.
And that's a fair thing to say.
That's perfectly valid.
I mean, the most important thing to say about it is mining will be the same as it was before. You get from the point of view of what you do as a player, and how you get your mining pick, you go to your mining spot, you click on the rock, you click on it, you get ore back. And none of that will change at all. So it will still feel, if you don't understand how the new mechanics work,
or don't want to,
or you're not interested, it doesn't matter. You just get the highest pick you've got, go to the ore, mine it, you'll get ore. Brilliant. The subtle details are so that we can do more with the mechanics. That's why we want to change it. So it's not to change the way you have to think about the game, but just to allow us to give more interesting or better rewards.
So to clear up what we're suggesting, it's effectively that it will allow us to add new kinds of pickaxes, critical hits, maybe even things like prayers or abilities
that affect mining.
That does make it feel more combat-esque.
People keep saying, like, well, why can't there be benefits from skills that go cross skill? And part of the problem is that the skills mechanics don't really have room in them to do that. So mining, as it works at the moment, you have a chance to hit, and you have a swing time, how many ticks it is between each swings, and you can't go above 100% chance to hit, and you can't go below one swing.
So we're already at that limit.
We don't really have much we can do to give rewards. We can give more ore per tick.
Duplicate per ore.
That's how it works at the moment. The better picks give more ore per tick. But that means we can't slow the ore rate down. So then we're talking about tier 90 Ethereum. If we want that ore to be valuable, we want it to come up relatively infrequently. We don't want you to be getting 20 of it per tick, because now each individual piece of ore is worthless.
Absolutely. So it's given us no room to do anything with mining. Ultimately, we're at the limit of it right now. And if we want to do something wholesale with mining and smithing, do something kind of fresh and new, then we need to have that space to strategize. It will allow players to
make choices and mine in different ways. Maybe they want to emphasize XP, maybe they want to emphasize ore acquisition.
But we will still emphasise the fact that if a player does not want to participate in that way, they can still AFK it. And it will still feel like the traditional mining.
It'll feel exactly like normal mining.
Absolutely.
The major difference in the so the proposed new system is whenever I hit a rock, a number goes up. I have some number, which is the amount of
we're calling it progress.
The amount of progress I do when I hit with my pick. It scales with my mining level. It scales with the quality of the pick I'm using, and maybe other benefits I have from things, perhaps invention or perhaps gear if we implement that sort of thing. And then every time I hit the rock, I get XP. So you gain a constant stream of XP from hitting the rock. And then once I reach some amount of progress, I get the ore. In the current system, if we want the ore to be rare, that means we have to give it a very low chance. It's a 5% chance per ore. So you go swing, I didn't get an ore, swing, I didn't get an ore, swing, I didn't get an ore. And it's very, very random. It's like a drop table. It's actually very like combat in that regard. And we want it to feel a bit more consistent than that. And the other problem with the current system is that because you get your ore and your XP at the same time,
yeah.
You're waiting on the XP as well. You're randomly waiting. You're not getting any XP. It feels very unsatisfying. So by separating the two out, we have more control.
So there'll be more consistency, but we've already talked about how we can add a little bit more randomness and surprise through other methods. That's great. That's great. You mentioned it just a moment ago about level up bonuses.
Personally, I feel that when you level up in a skill, you should get fun. You should go, oh, I've got better at that. And that isn't really true in a lot of skills. Technically, maybe there's a 0.5% better swing chance or something like that.
You see it kind of in agility
but
and things like that.
What I'd like to implement are bonuses which are specific to that tier of ore. So I'm leveling up to 7. So I'm mining copper at the moment, and I get, for example, 10% chance to get double copper when I mine copper or something like that. That's a big bonus. That's a large improvement to copper. You can imagine that being quite valuable at the higher tiers. But because it only applies to copper, it doesn't need to stack up as the skill goes on. So what I hope is that every time you level up in mining, you'll get visibly better
suite
at
of
mining.
varied unlocks that make me better at mining.
If you're drawing the XP per hour graph, I would expect it to sort of hop up each level, because you've got some really chunky bonus that feels good.
Okay.
That's what I'd like to get.
The next one that we'd like to talk about is another contentious one, which is why we're leaving this kind of relatively open. So we'd really like your feedback, particularly on this. And it's whether or not mining in its new form, so after the Mining Smithing rework, should be faster to train.
Yeah, well, because we're talking about bringing Rune down, it was level 80 something, it's now going to be level 50. Presumably that means that it gets nerfed.
Yes.
And we don't like nerfing things, we think that feels bad. But of course, if I'm level 80, then I'll just be using the new level 80 ores instead.
Yeah,
so that's
there will be a replacement.
I think what we're going to try and do is, so mining at the moment has an XP curve, where the higher my mining level, the more my XP per hour is. Try to maintain something very similar to that. So mining rates don't change radically. Part of the thing is that the curve at the moment is very wonky. Some levels there's huge jumps, and some levels there aren't. Stones is a huge jump. And so try to standardize perhaps that a little bit. But I don't think we're expecting to make massive increases in the amount of XP. And that probably means that some rocks, for example, RuneScape most significantly, would need to be nerfed. But I would expect to err on the side of it increasing a bit.
Right.
And my reason for that is just because it will feel bad to log in after the rework and be getting worse XP than I was before.
It's a slow skill to train, but we've also looked at kind of, Seren Stones feels like our cap.
I think so, yeah.
In terms of XP generation per hour.
Yeah, we wouldn't expect.
So on the rework, I mean, we may produce updates in the future that does go beyond that. I mean, we're not ruling that out, but for the rework, we're looking at keeping that as our cap.
I think so, yeah. We wouldn't expect there to be faster rates than Seren Stones.
Okay. So we'd love to know what you think about that topic in particular. And we've also we were just discussing it today, in fact, was the free-to-play aspect.
Yeah, we had a few people saying, well, what does this mean for free-to-play? If you're nerfing RuneScape, well, is that going to make free-to-play mining
That means you're just pulling all of the bands, my ability to fight is lessened.
I mean, the gear would stay the same, but the XP rates in mining and smithing would be massively lower. And so we were discussing this today, and you said, well, actually,
I'm perfectly happy.
Tentatively, you're okay with the 60 and perhaps even the 70 tiers of mining and smithing being accessible for free-to-play.
So there we go. I think we've covered largely the core mechanics of mining, what it would feel like to mine. There were some things that we really wanted from you. Obviously, we put together a lot of what we would like to do. Now it's time for you to give us your feedback. You've helped us out so fantastically over the past 3 videos. Now it's the time for what we've just suggested. In particular, it is the idea of progress. And making progress on a particular node or rock. What you feel about that, how you feel about that, particularly as it allows us to add more strategy. And allow us to add more rewards, potentially more pickaxes, for example. And also about the speed of leveling. Whether or not you're interested, I mean, we're talking about keeping largely the same pace of mining, potentially a little bit faster. With Seren Stones being really the kind of top for XP per hour. Okay, so just your thoughts on that. So thank you very much for watching. We'll be back with another Mining Smithing Dev Diary in the future, talking about smithing and its core mechanics.